Well, this is the public repository for my final project of the CSE 111 course from BYU. The main goal of this application is to provide a basic user interface to provide the details of the customer, select the units of the products that you want to purchase, and then click a button to generate a PDF invoice. Knowledge applied was classes, unit testing, graphic user interface by Tekinter, PDF, invoice generation, and in the future it is expected to apply data access object to save the information even after the application has been closed. More in terms of IDs of the information. To utilize the application, you'll need to install some dependencies that you have here at the README MD. Then a brief explanation about how to execute this is that you have to go to the source subfolder. In the case that you don't want to check the graphic user interface and you just want to have like an overall idea of this working, you can go to check pyconsole.py. There are some records created there, and after you execute that, it will create a PDF. Then we have the gi-main.py that obviously triggers the graphic user interface. And as well, after you complete all the steps, you can create a PDF invoice. It is important to highlight that we have the following folder system under this project. Let me show you that. We have invoices, resources, source, and then obviously due to Git we have these three files. And well, if you want to double check this, we're ignoring any PyCache, any PyCache files, .vs code that is an inner file that is created by Visual Studio Code, and any PDF, because obviously every time that we push the code to the remote, we do not want to upload the PDF invoices. That is why that is placed there. And let's go to resources. At resources we have this image to remind our that has not been implemented yet in the application, but in the future will be utilized. Then we have a sample of the graphic user interface. We have the logo that will be placed at the invoice. And let's go for the files. So we have some classes, we have some test classes, and then we have this pipe file that is utils. It has some methods that will be utilized across different files, and they're not like directly, strictly related to a class. Let's double check some of these classes. As you see, I'm preparing the getters, the setters, the constructor as well for the objects, and there are some functions like set the email only if it's an actual email, because again this is going to be scalable. So right now we have only the part that the customer is providing their information and picking the units of products, but then we can have like different screens, one for customers, one for products, and have less fixed data. Let's go for order. As well, in some classes I'm already utilizing enums The idea of this is that in the future that is scalable. So we know that if we're expecting some fixed values, like for a category, for a status, and we are not respecting either the case of the words, the spaces, any symbol, anything, so we can avoid that using the enums. Additionally, I create the toString or redefine the toString method, so it will always give the actual value. And let's see that. For example, order.status.waiting, it is equal to this value, to this inner value. Okay, so give me just a second. So here we have a test classes. We're going to use test customers. So as you see, every validation has its own warning in the case that has not been fulfilled. As you see, these are passing totally. Then something important to highlight is the following. Let me show you that. So we're implementing generate invoice PDF dependency to create the invoice PDF, but as the way that is built, it will always save the PDF at the main folder, but we want to have them at invoices. So there we have something to work on, obviously. And the second one is when we are creating PDF on the test classes, just to verify that it's working, we do not want that invoice because obviously it was only for testing. So I have created a method called remove that basically, given the upper folder, will look here, and the one that says move will just move every PDF file under this main folder into invoices. Let's go for the graphic user interface now. Okay, let's just do a screenshot in the case that the recording cannot capture the application. So just in case, this is the application. So we have some validations, and let me show you one of these validations that is non-empty information. As you see here, let's fill the information required. Okay, so first of all, I would like to tell you something about the fields. For the product list fields, I input a 0 on them, so we can suggest or indicate the customer that it is expected to place an integer number. And 0 obviously because we're not enforcing anyone to pick any of those products. Then for birth date, billing address, and shipping address, that we know that we need a certain format of data given, we are placing this suggestion over there. And as we know that these suggestions may be kind of long, we're going to avoid the hassle of the customers to erase it by just doing click. It is erased. If you see here, the data remains, but here no. Well, let's go for one of these validations, that is the address validation. What happens if I place an address that is not valid? It will let me know. And then we have the birthday one. So let's place something that is not a birthday. So now we don't have issues with that one. Let's go for the email one. And as you see, we're getting these warnings and the message is changing. And then obviously we need to have at least one product picked. So let's see what happens if I don't have any. There you go. You are being requested to have at least one unit picked. Let's pick this and this. Okay, and before we click again generate invoice button, you'll see that the subtotal and total are just showing hyphen. That means that we have not retrieved information, sufficient information and good information to create the order. Either do not have a good information for creating the order, the product, the request, whatever. But after we have the correct information, it will update. And let's do a screenshot again, just in case that this is not capturing. As you see here, that's what I meant, the hyphens. Okay, and let's do a final screenshot of this. If you see here, we have the total and subtotal calculated because we did have all the correct information to create the invoice. And let's double check what happened at the invoice folder. We now have an invoice, and let's double check that. Okay, let's compare the invoice against the graphic user interface. So we expected 1880 as total, that's fine, and 1679 as subtotal, and that's fine as well. Sprinkled water was 1 unit, sugar was 3 units, and toilet paper was 2 units. That makes sense. Then we have the provider information, the QR code for paying, the bank account, the email that we place, the phone number, the customer information, even the date that we created the invoice, and the ID of the invoice. And this little thing that is kind of beauty, the logo of the company.